Okay, so I started with the Blu-rays, and I figured I showed all of those already. I've got a decent amount of DVDs to show as well. And, I guess here we go. So before I even start, I just want to clarify. A lot of these I already have on Blu-ray, so I'm not going to continually say, I have this, or I want to upgrade this, because it's a mistake that I've made in the past while trying to shoot this video, and the last time I caught myself saying I like this movie a lot. I'm going to try to just not repeat myself very often in this video, so here we go. Gremlins 1 and 2. I grew up watching the first one and second one a lot. I think I like the second one a little bit more, just because it's kind of aware of what it is. If you saw my Blu-ray video, you know I have this. King Kong 2005 with Peter Jackson. This is hot off Lord of the Rings, and I don't know. I'm split on this movie still. I like the first half, and I'd say this. I like the second half. The first half, it just seems to take a little too long to get to the point. And I'm not a big fan of Jack Black in this at all. I can't really stand him. So that's that. Hopefully dropping this. Constantine with Keanu Reeves. I know it's not like the comics at all, and I'm sure a lot of people aren't a big fan of his take on Constantine and the version they went with here. But this is like a fun Halloween movie to put on. I watched this past Halloween, and I just had a lot of fun. Yeah, Shia LaBeouf's in this, and this is what Shia LaBeouf was kind of the up-and-coming new star in Hollywood. And I don't know, I have a good time with this every time I watch it. It's not fantastic or anything, but Keanu Reeves is just a lot of fun to watch. 28 Weeks Later and 28 Days Later. I've always preferred 28 Days Later, but 28 Weeks Later was a worthy sequel, I'd say. Jeremy Renner's in the second one. It's one of those weird things I always forget, and then I watch it. It's like, oh, Jeremy Renner's in this. And what's his face from Oppenheimer's in the first one, Mr. Peaky Blinders. I always forget his name because it's forgettable. Cillian Murphy. 7. This is a great Fincher flick. Brad Pitt. This is where his career really took off, I'd say. This is 1995. And Morgan Freeman, like always, is just great. I like this cover more than I think the Blu-ray is a little different than this one. I like this cover, and I don't know. I like it. The Frighteners, another Peter Jackson classic. This is like his first big budget film. I think this was right after Brain Dead. This is, I don't know, I like this one. Michael J. Fox is one of my favorite actors. Back to the Future, of course, and Family Ties and all that. But I think he's pretty good in this. And this is right before he his career fell apart because of his Parkinson's diagnosis and all that. And he's just enjoyable. And this is another one where you put it on around Halloween time, and it's a good watch. This is one of the worst films ever made. The Happening. I can barely get through this. I tried rewatching it as a joke a couple weeks ago, and I got 15 minutes in, and John Leguizamo, or however you pronounce that clown's name, walks in and starts throwing percentages and stuff, and it's just so dumb. This is just the proof that Shyamalan is either extreme hit or extreme miss, and this is an extreme miss. The second Ace Ventura, I don't know why I have the second one, but it's alright. I think the second one's almost a little better because they had a little bit bigger of a budget. First one looks really cheap. Looks like straight to VHS in the mid-90s. This has like a nice film quality to it. It's not a very good movie, obviously, but it's like a nice escapism on a Friday night or something. It's one of those types. Big Mama's House is the first one. This is back when Martin Lawrence was one of the bigger names in Hollywood. He was one of the bigger comedians. I have quite a few Martin Lawrence movies. The first Shrek. I need to upgrade this for sure, though. This is one of those where I don't know why I haven't yet, but first Shrek. I think the second one's a little bit better, but yeah, I only own this one, so. It's Mike Myers at his best right there. Daredevil 2003. I've already said in my last video, I can't really defend my opinion on it. Same with Hulk. I can't really defend my opinion on it, but it's one of those, I grew up with it, so I can't really, I don't know. It's hard to explain. Hellboy. It took me years to get around to rewatching this. I saw it when I was a kid, but I completely forgot it. And I'd say within the last 2 years, I've seen it a couple times, and I've come to appreciate it. The second one's obviously not as good, but this one, it's a nice comic book movie. Oops, just sliding out. That's what she said. Superman 1, 2, 3, and 4. I guess I'll pull them out, because that's what she said. So that's the first one. Oh, my eyes are cheating. The first one. The second one. The third one, which is a guilty pleasure, don't tell anybody. And the fourth one, which is one of the worst movies ever made. Even as a kid, I knew something was wrong. I remember watching the first three and then getting to the fourth one. I knew something just wasn't right with that. Looked extremely cheap. And I'm pretty sure the budget was cut in half, if not 75%. I don't know why these aren't going back in. There we go. But of course, the first one and the second one are like these classic comic book movies, and it's the reason we've gotten the comic book movies that we have today, because those were so successful, especially the first Superman. Alright, moving on. The Incredible Hulk TV movies from 1988 and 1990, I believe. I watched the show, but this is, I just prefer owning this, because I'm never probably going to sit down and watch the entire show from the 70s. So this was like 10 years after the show ended, maybe a little less, 8 years, and then they made this straight to TV movie with Thor in it, the guy from Good Luck Charlie, the dad, and yeah, I enjoy it. Daredevil's in it. I like Lou Ferrigno's Hulk. So this is like a James Bond pack. It's got Dr. No, You Only Live Twice, Moonraker, Octopussy, and Tomorrow Never Dies in it. You know, it's not some of my favorite Bonds in there. I do like Tomorrow Never Dies, and it also has the first James Bond in there, Dr. No. But, you know, not great. I think it's my grandpa's. I don't really know how I ended up with it, but I guess I'll hold on to it. A burned copy of Open Season. I remember when people used to burn discs. I don't know really why I still own this, but, you know, I like Open Season. The Jungle Book. This is a really nice slipcover. I'm indifferent on this movie. It's been a long time since I've sat down and thought, I'm going to watch The Jungle Book, especially this version. Either version, but I've never thought, I'm going to rewatch the animated one. I don't know, the Disney animated movies from the past are just kind of not my thing. I prefer the Pixar from like 95 to 2009. Red Planet. I can't really explain why I own this, and it's a clipper case. But I was going through a phase where I wanted to watch all these movies about Mars and space, and you know, I can't again defend why. But this is one of those movies that I've heard nothing but bad things about, and I thought Val Kilmer gave a pretty good performance considering the movie was completely terrible. The script was horrible. I'm not even gonna talk about it. Dukes of Hazzard, terrible. The Italian Job, Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. Cast is really good, and a lot of these people just aren't relevant anymore, but back in 2003, I don't think you get much better of a cast. The whole ending of this movie is extremely entertaining. Splice. This is one of the last Blockbuster movies I ended up getting. I think it was free, because this was back when they were just giving shit away. And Splice, you know, it's not a great film in any way, shape, or form, but it's kind of got an interesting premise, and I think everybody should check it out at least once. Rocky 6, so Rocky Balboa. We got the Balboa collection here on DVD. I just got it on Blu-ray, but I'm keeping these just because of how cool that side thing is, and I don't know. If people ever want to watch these, you know, any of these, whether it's Rocky or whatever, it's nice to have doubles, because I'm not going to hand out my Blu-rays, because if you lose those, I'll be angry. But if I give you a DVD and you hold on to it for a while, it's whatever. Scorpion King. I own all the Mummy movies, but on Blu-ray, I feel like I don't really need to own this on Blu-ray. It's it's pretty self-explanatory. It's The Rock all baby oiled up, screaming. I don't really need that. Bone Tomahawk. I thought I liked this a lot more when I first watched it, but the more I try to get through it again for a second or third time, I'm just not that interested. I find a lot of the characters in this unlikable, and quite frankly, the visual effects look like shit. Like, I know it's supposed to be kind of grindhousey and cheap, but I don't know. A lot of it just doesn't look very good. Lost Boys and Lost Boys: The Tribe. Second one, honestly, for being like a straight to DVD, it's not as bad as I expected. But obviously, the first Lost Boys is a classic, cult classic that, depending on who you talk to, it's one of those movies people hold in high regard. In my house, it's held in high regard. Put the bunny back in the box. Nicolas Cage, classic right here. Something's wrong with this DVD, though. It says widescreen. It's not. But, it's one of the best action movies of the 1990s. John Malkovich, Cyrus the Virus. You got Ving Rhames in there. What more can you ask for from an action movie of 1997, I believe? Red Dawn and Navy SEALs. I'm probably never going to watch Navy SEALs, but Red Dawn, not a bad Cold War Russian invading America movie, and the cast is pretty damn good for 1984, and they're all up and coming, and it is what it is. It's a pretty bad DVD transfer, though. I think it's a straight up from like VHS transfer. It looks bad. The Outsiders. Stay golden, pony boy. This is another one that goes along with Red Dawn, where the cast is just, look at them all. Up and coming. A lot of them are actually similar to Red Dawn. And up and coming stars in the making. And, obviously Tom Cruise somehow ended up being the biggest one of all these guys. And he barely speaks in this movie. He actually barely does anything in the movie. He just kind of dances around and touches men because it's shocking. King of Comedy. This is basically what Joker ripped off scene for scene. And people praise Joker, and I just feel like a lot of them that praise it have not seen King of Comedy, or they probably would reserve their Joker praise. Joker's fine, but King of Comedy did it first and better. There's some scenes in this movie that make me feel so fucking uncomfortable because he's just so unaware. He doesn't have the social cues that everybody else has where they can read the room and read what people are feeling. He's just very not all there. Rupert Pupkin. Speed Racer. You know what? I'm never gonna try and explain my love for this movie, but I love it. And it's unfortunately the full screen edition, but I'm glad I own any edition. This is like a childhood movie that I just remember sitting there in class thinking about all the time, coming home watching it on constant loop. It's great. I guess I'll just pull both of these up at the same time because they're one and the same, basically. We've got, I just basically flexed. I don't know what I'm doing. National Treasure 1 and 2. I prefer the first one. It's not even really a question. The second one, when I first watched it with my dad, I thought I was being pranked. It's so bad. The ending of it is so bad. The whole movie's bad, but the ending in itself is just it's atrocious. The first one feels almost like an Indiana Jones mummy kind of Uncharted almost. Then the second one just feels like this action bloated Hollywood mess of a film, and it just pulls all the sequel tropes. I'm not a big fan of the sequel, but the first one, another Nicolas Cage movie that I quite enjoy. Young Guns 1 and 2. Now, Young Guns 2 is almost impossible to find on Blu-ray for less than about $50, which is a damn shame because it's better than the first. The whole story of Billy the Kid really is told in the second movie. We get the whole Regulator story in this first one, which is a good movie in its own right, but the whole story about Wade Garrett is in the second one, so we get the whole real meat of the Billy the Kid story that we all know. And, yeah, these movies, I could watch them literally all day long. Endlessly. Love me some Emilio. Roadhouse. Name is Dalton. I thought you'd be bigger. Yeah. There's anything more need to be said about Roadhouse. You either love it or hate it. When I bought the Blu-ray, the girl was laughing at me at the store, so clearly she didn't get it, but, you know, I get it. If you like 40-minute chase scenes, this is the film to go to. This is the original Gone in 60 Seconds. I prefer the Nick Cage version, but, you know, this in its own right for 1974, 5, I think 74. It's got some damn good action. And again, you have to be interested in 40-minute chase scenes, because basically half this movie is just one big long chase scene with the entire city going after him. It's quite entertaining, though. My goodness. There's so many of these to fucking... So we got Jackass 1, which made me do some dumb things as a kid. Jackass 2, Jackass 2.5, and Jackass 3. So you got the whole original trilogy of Jackass, the good ones, when Bam was still around sober and when Ryan Dunn was alive. And they were all up to their bad antics. Jackass Forever just wasn't the same. And it's a damn shame. It had some funny bits, but I still watch Jackass annually. I go through a phase where I watch all of them, and then I go on and I watch CKY, and I watch all that stuff, and it just brings me back to a nice, grounded place of being a child. Probably shouldn't have seen that as a kid, but, you know. Karate Kid 1, which is, like, one of my pivotal childhood memories, period. I still dream about being in this movie. That's how much I just loved it when I was a kid. Karate Kid 2, which I struggle to get through, I'll be honest. I love the ending. The whole fight with Chosen is great, but I don't. It just feels kind of sloggy in the middle. Karate Kid 3 was always a guilty pleasure, even though it feels so cheap. And Ralph Macchio was about 30 in this. There's just something that I really love. It recaptures the vibe of the first one for me. This is the Thing remake, or the Thing sequel or prequel, and yeah, it's not my thing. I don't know if I really mentioned in my Blu-ray video, I'm not a huge Thing fan to begin with. I don't mind the Thing, the original John Carpenter movie, but it's not particularly my go-to. You know, out of all his movies, it's not the one that I reached out of all of my John Carpenter movies. This is one that I would reach for before I reach for pretty much the rest of them, except for maybe Big Trouble in Little China. They Live, another movie that's so damn hard to find on Blu-ray for cheap, but I'm alright with just owning it on DVD, because just owning this movie is enough. And if everybody needs to see this movie at least once, probably multiple times, over generations. Not generations, that doesn't quite make sense. Over decades is what I meant to say. So if you watch this once when you're like 15 to 20, watch it again when you're 30. It just seems to resonate more with me as I get older. And, you know, rewatching it a month or two ago, I just sat there going, this is where we're at. This is our world. Call me crazy all you want. The Island. You know how I feel about The Island. I kind of talked about it in my Blu-ray video, but this is probably my favorite Michael Bay movie, either this or The Rock. Nothing to Lose. This is a Tim Robbins kind of guilty pleasure. Like, it's not great. Don't hear me out. I'm not going to sit here and tell you this is Academy Award winning, but I do like me some Tim Robbins, and him and Martin Lawrence have some good chemistry. Run, Fat Boy, Run. Back when Simon Pegg was likable, before he got all political online and stuff. I miss when Simon Pegg was funny. Hot Rod. I aspire to be him in my life, because cool beans. Cool beans. It's probably one of the best Saturday Night Live movies. They've made some good ones. Tommy Boy, I guess this would technically be considered another Saturday Night Live movie. And, you know, again, you know how I feel about... Actually, I don't think I really talked about how I feel about Tommy Boy in my last video. I just kind of called it a poverty planes, trains, and automobiles, which is kind of true, but in the same way, this has got some memorable scenes in its own right. The deer scene, the hotel scene where he goes down, asks where the weight room is, stuff like that. I'll always love this. Callahan Auto, Dan Aykroyd's little cameo in that movie's great. The Breakfast Club, oh man, I love me some Breakfast Club. Again, Emilio Estevez. I don't know why I pointed at the back like he's there. Emilio Estevez. Anything with Emilio Estevez, I'm interested. I always have been. He's just like an interesting actor to me. I loved him in Mighty Ducks when I was a kid. And I also like, why am I forgetting? I'm blanking on his name right now. The kid that plays Brian in this movie. I am completely blanking on his name. And I like him in pretty much everything he's in. It's a damn shame, too. And this just encapsulates what it's like to be in high school. I think every kid in every generation, see, it works better for this generation, can compare to this a little bit. Obviously now cell phones make shit a little harder and the internet makes shit a little harder, but I think every kid can kind of relate to this a little bit in some way or another. We've got the Laugh It Up Fuzzball trilogy. So it's the Family Guy Star Wars. I love these, you know, every now and again. If I want to get in a Star Wars-y vibe, aka just kind of bask in the original trilogy nostalgia, because it's all I care about with Star Wars, I'll probably just put these on, because I've seen the original trilogy so many damn times that, I don't know, I don't get too much enjoyment rewatching it. I've seen these less, so. What About Bob? If you have not seen What About Bob, please go and watch this. This is maybe my favorite comedy ever made. And Bill Murray is just perfection in this, and so is Richard Dreyfuss. They both just absolutely nail it. This is peak comedy. And when I mentioned in my Blu-ray video about Frank Oz can direct a movie, this is a prime example. This and Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Man. Scrooged. I didn't watch this Christmas. I kept intending to. I'm gonna just wait till next Christmas now. It's past that point, but you know, I enjoy it. Starsky and Hutch and Dukes of Hazzard. When I was a kid, it was always the Dukes of Hazzard movie that was my go-to because it was my favorite show as a kid. But now, as I get older, the Starsky and Hutch movie, I rewatch it every year for some reason. Like, I catch myself if I'm just trying to watch a movie like, I have real bad anxiety moments. So if I'm trying to calm down, I put on Starsky and Hutch. Sometimes. It's one of those things where it's like, if that's on Netflix and I'm just scrolling through, I throw it on. And I enjoy it. Harold and Kumar 1 and 2. I bought these mostly just for when I hang out with people, and it's like, let's put on, you know, a comedy. Or two. Because it's in the same disc, so you can put the first one on and then just kind of shift it over. I don't think I've put it in once, though. Nobody I hang out with has asked me once to, yeah, let's put on Harold and Kumar. We've all seen them. There's no real point. American Beauty. I want to go lift weights in my garage naked and have my wife cheat on me with a guy who calls himself the King. Maybe not, but this movie does all the things right to make you care about this character. Back before Kevin Spacey was known for being just a complete and utter creep. But that really truly is one of the best movies in the 1990s. Cyrus. I still don't know how I feel about this. It was better than I was expecting, that's for sure, because I'd seen it once as a kid. None of it made sense to me because I was too young. And then I rewatched it a couple years ago during COVID when I just went through a phase of just rewatching a bunch of shit that I feel like I forgot. And there's some funny shit in this movie. That scene where he's playing his keyboard and kind of trolling him, it's pretty good. But a lot of it just feels, I don't know, misplaced. A lot of the humor's not that funny. Animal House. I mean, this has gone down for 50 years now. It's almost 50 years old, which is crazy to say. This has gone on for like 50 years as being one of the best comedies, and I went most of my life without seeing it. It feels like my parents are pretty uncultured when it comes to movies. Like, I ask my dad now, like, have you seen this movie? And almost every time it's no. So I'm not really surprised that I grew up not watching a lot of stuff, because neither did they. So this was one that I missed out on. And I always saw the trailer before Too Fast, Too Furious on the DVD, and I was like, that looks so damn fun. Does it not? And now that I've watched it, it is fun. Alright, I just had to take a quick sip of water. Probably gonna have to do that again. I probably should have brought my water over here, but I blew it. Okay, My Cousin Vinny. Probably my top 5 comedy. I just rewatched this about a week or two ago, right around Christmas, and I was laughing a lot. I shot the clerk. I'm in the middle of a confession here. Notebook and The Time Traveler's Wife. I still have not seen Time Traveler's Wife. Don't question this. I have a girlfriend. If you have a girlfriend and you own movies, you're probably going to own a couple that you aren't watching a lot, but if you're with your girlfriend, you'll watch them. And the next few are like that. I like The Notebook for what it is. You know, like a Titanic ripoff kind of, but yeah, it's alright. Ryan Gosling's pretty good in it. 17 Again and Hairspray. I liked 17 Again when I was a kid. Hairspray did never like, even as a kid. My sister liked it a lot. Again, if you have a girlfriend, she likes both of these, specifically Hairspray, which to my detriment. But it's whatever. I can get through it. John Travolta's pretty funny in it. Oh, Fletch. I love Fletch. I bought this mostly for Fletch and Mallrats, because I already own Happy Gilmore. I think you'll see that somewhere in here. But Mallrats, I was going through this Kevin Smith phase where I was trying to buy all of his movies till I saw how expensive Dogma and Chasing Amy and all those were. It's like, I don't need them that bad. But Fletch, great Chevy Chase comedy. You can't say that too often because it's one of his only good ones where it's by himself. And Happy Gilmore, I'll talk about that more after. Very Bad Things, another one that if you've not seen this, find a way to go watch this somehow, because this is truly in my top 10 comedies. I've said that a couple times, but this really, and I mean it. I'm not going to say it if it's not true. There's a couple scenes in this movie that I'm just thinking about it right now. It's so fucked up. But fucked up in the best way possible, right? I am still shocked that they made this movie. Even for the 90s, a dark time in film where you're able to get away with a lot. This movie, it jumps right over that edge, and it's great. Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. I don't own the first one. I think I lost my DVD when I moved houses a couple years ago, which sucks. But I prefer the second one anyway. And very rarely do I ever feel the need to watch the first one. And I will get the Blu-rays for these eventually someday, I'm sure. But, it is what it is. This second one, if I'm having a bad day anxiety-wise, or I feel sick, or I'm just going through an illness of some type, this is one of those ones where I grab this off the shelf, put it in, and just bring me to my happy place. Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back again. I was going through that Kevin Smith phase. I wanted to own all of his movies, and this was like $3 on DVD, and the Blu-ray was like $25. Of course I'm buying the DVD, but it feels the need to be this big for some reason. There is multiple discs, but does it really need to be the size of like a season of television? Probably not. And this is one of his lesser movies, but there's a couple scenes in here that are memorable. The ending, and they're going around all the trolls' houses and beating the shit out of them. I think we all wish we could do that to people on Twitter sometimes. Good Luck, Chuck. It's when Dane Cook had a career. Wayne's World and Wayne's World 2. I like the first one. I like the second one a little bit more. And I can't explain why, but maybe because Kim Basinger's in it, and looking at her is just pure eye candy. Like if you've seen LA Confidential, you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's, Mike Myers, he was really likable back in the 90s, early 2000s, and the guy just fell off a cliff. Beverly Hills Cop 1, 2, and 3. I think you saw in the last video if you watched. The first one I own, but not the 2 and 3 on Blu-ray. You gotta buy the 3-pack, because that's what a lot of these companies do now. You have to buy all 3 of them, or else you can only buy the first, or whatever. But second one, Tony Scott, I quite enjoyed. And the third one, it gets a lot of hate. It deserves some hate, but it's not nearly as bad as I expected. When I saw it, I was expecting the worst movie ever made based off what I heard online. And it was not great, but definitely not worth all that. It was not that bad. Wedding Crashers. Oh, another. You put this on, you'll feel better in no time. You know, you can watch this with women. You can watch this with a guy. You can have a good time with pretty much anybody. I think I was 10 or 11 when I watched this for the first time in the car on the way somewhere, and it was a life-changing experience because it was the unrated version. So seeing those girls naked was like, oh my goodness, what am I seeing? What am I getting away with? Christopher Walken's great in it. I think this is my Owen Wilson section. Hall Pass. You know, I want to like Hall Pass more than I do, but the concept of the movie's funnier than the execution. A lot of it just seems like a misfire. They don't really do much in this movie. If you rewatch it, they kind of just sit around for the first 3 or 4 days of their Hall Pass, which is supposed to be funny. And I guess it kind of is, but it just feels like there's no budget to this movie, and they're kind of just doing shit at a golf course for most of it. I liked it a lot more when I was a teenager. I would have done something a little different with the movie myself, but that's neither here nor there. Drill Bit Taylor. This movie prepped me for high school, and I thought it was going to be the most terrifying thing of my life because of this. I thought because of this, you know, kids were going to be shoving grade 9s in lockers and stuff, and that's just not what it's like. Obviously, Hollywood exaggerates, but this movie is like one of the most exaggerated anything. Like, there's nothing like this in real life, where you go to school and there's like grade 12s beating the shit out of grade 9. Like, maybe it happens. My school, grade 12s wouldn't even acknowledge the grade 9s, wouldn't even look in their direction. So I don't know, it just seems extremely far-fetched. I know it's a movie, and I'm looking too far into stuff. I'm tired, and you can tell because I'm stuttering. But, this is probably my favorite Owen Wilson movie, You, Me, and Dupree. I don't know why. I can't explain it. Michael Douglas is so interesting to me in this movie. He's such a dick. And Matt Dillon's great. I don't know. There's just something about this. Every year, I feel the need to rewatch this. Maybe not even a year. 6 months. Like, yeah, I have hit the 6-month window. I'm about at that time right now where I could watch You, Me, and Dupree. It's been that long. I might just do that. Gotta put this back down here. Blades of Glory. Yeah, I don't know. This was another one when I was a kid I thought was funny. I don't know. It's not that funny anymore. Will Ferrell is super hit or miss, but in this, I like him. Talladega Nights. This and Step Brothers, these are like the two real big hits where his comedy and John C. Reilly, they just complement each other extremely well in these movies. And I'd say Step Brothers is probably the better one. But Talladega Nights is also just one of those most classics. The other guys. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell have some pretty damn good chemistry when they bounce off each other here. And Michael Keaton kind of steals the entire show. Click. Yeah, I tried to show my girlfriend Click. She wasn't very interested. And most people I talked to didn't really like it. I've always had this weird obsession with this. I think the concept of it is kind of what keeps me interested. Just being able to kind of fast forward through your life and kind of get rid of the things you're not interested in and basically make your life better. I don't know, it all seems very intriguing, but as you see, he runs out of time real quick because he's a little too antsy and he gets a little too far ahead of himself and isn't really thinking about his family and more about himself. Don't mess with the Zohan. I expected nothing with this, and I got everything I needed from an Adam Sandler movie. It's so goofy and dumb, but it's funny. Probably the best Adam Sandler film. It's either this or Happy Gilmore. It's back and forth. I think these came in a 2-pack together. This is like back-to-back years. I think this is 94, this is 95. This guy just, for a while there, he wasn't missing. Yeah, these are just pretty perfect, especially Billy Madison. You've even got Chris Farley in there, which just really puts the icing on the cake. This has got Chubbs, though. This has got Chubbs Peterson, and Chubbs Peterson is maybe my favorite side character ever, the most random character ever. And his death is so random and hilarious and out of nowhere completely. Big Daddy. I like this. I like Big Daddy. It's fun. Hook. Not one of my favorite Spielberg movies, but it is what it is. You know, when I was a kid, I quite enjoyed it, but I haven't really ever had the urge to rewatch it in the last 5 or so years. Encino Man, the first Brendan Fraser movie that he really popped off in, and maybe his first movie ever. When I was a kid, this was one of my escape from reality type movies. This was like a Friday night, we're getting pizza, I'd put this on. And Pauly Shore is actually good in this. He's got some scenes where he's actually acting. Shock, right? Still Waiting. This is the sequel to Waiting. I own Waiting on Blu-ray. I don't think you could get this on Blu-ray, so I just got it on DVD. Yeah, it's a good straight to DVD sequel. It really is. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. It's decent. Scooby-Doo 1 and 2. Like zoinks. First Scooby-Doo 1, but 2 always has a special place in all of the kids who grew up in that era's heart. It's got some good scenes. And, the whole end scene where he's riding the fire extinguisher. It's pretty memorable. I know it's a mean movie, but I'll always remember that because, you're like a 3 or 4 year old, it's impressionable. But, yeah, they casted this movie perfectly. They casted these movies, because there's 2, perfectly. I don't know why I own this, but, as a kid I loved it. And Jimmy Fallon used to be funny. Shocking, I know. Something About Mary, Matt Dillon, hilarious. Ben Stiller, hilarious. This is, back when comedies were comedies, and you could kind of get away with being offensive in most of your comedies, but not anymore. Meet the Fockers. Bah. Meet the Parents. Prefer to Meet the Parents. I'm not even going to own Little Fockers. I've never seen it, and I just don't care to. But, Meet the Parents has got a lot of good stuff. We've all felt like Greg one time in our life. I don't really like the sequel at all. Like, if I'm going to be honest, I tried to get through that again for a second time, and there's just a baby screaming the entire time, and I can't do it. I simply can't. Zoolander. Probably the best Ben Stiller movie ever. He directed this one too. He directs a lot of his own good movies. And him and Owen Wilson, they're like the dynamic duo in this. Hansel and good old Zoolander. Ugh. I want to watch this right now. I'm gonna go mine down in the coal mines in a wife beater. Along Came Polly. If you want to see one of the best performances in a comedy ever, watch this. Philip Seymour Hoffman is so good as Sandy Lyle. He's so good I can remember his name, his full name in a comedy. That tells you a lot. Usually in comedies, people have the most disposable names. It's like, that character. Oh god, I'm throwing stuff now. The SpongeBob movie. Don't really have much to say about that. I was never a big SpongeBob fan. I like the movie, but I'm not a big SpongeBob TV show fan. Hot Tub Time Machine. I love anything with time travel, and this is just like a nostalgia comedy, almost Back to the Future kind of callback movie, and I love it. Dumb and Dumber and Dumb and Dumber 2. I love the first one. Second one, this is now technically not the second one, because this is I don't even know what to consider this now, because you got Dumb and Dumber 2, but you've also got Dumb and Dumberer. So this is the second one released, but technically not Dumb and Dumber 2. It's a prequel. Passion of the Christ. I watch this every Easter. I wouldn't consider myself super religious, but I definitely believe in God. And this is probably the best movie depicting the whole events that unfolded, if you believe in all that. And, it's gut-wrenching. Mel Gibson did a fantastic job. Die Hard, 1 to 3. I shoved the fourth one in there. I love the first one. I love the third one. Never really liked Die Hard 2 at all, because it's just straight up the same thing that the first Die Hard is, and it's just in an airport instead. And the fourth one's pretty bad. It's straight to DVD quality type of movie, and it just doesn't feel like a movie fit for the franchise. Casualties of War. Brian De Palma, man, this is just a depressing, dark take on some of the shit that definitely happened back in Vietnam, and a lot of that stuff that we just never think about because we're living our innocent lives over here. But probably my favorite Michael J. Fox performance, period. And Sean Penn is just terrifying in that. War of the Worlds. I went through a phase where I rewatched this like 15 times in a month. I first watched it when I was probably in grade 10 in high school. And this really re-sparked my interest in aliens. This made me go back out and research about aliens a lot more and stuff. So I kind of appreciate it for that. Minority Report, it's the other Spielberg, Tom Cruise, early 2000s collab. I like this a little bit less. It's probably the better movie, but I just struggle to rewatch this more. It's a little longer, and I don't know, it's not much to rewatch there. There's not much to bite off the bone. Once you know the twist of the movie and stuff, it's just kind of not rewatchable. Wanted, it's like a fun Friday night. I keep saying Friday night because that's like my idea of a Friday night action thriller. That's basically what this is. And James McAvoy is always good. The Illusionist, the twist at the end's pretty good. I like it. I like movies with Paul Giamatti. Bobby Z. This is one of those Friday night, Saturday night, you're drunk or something with a buddy. Me and my friend threw this on. We got super drunk. We might have been sober when we watched this, actually, which made it even worse. Because, we're watching this sober. It's bad. Probably my least favorite Tarantino movie. So I don't own it on Blu-ray. I'm just not really in a rush to get it. True Romance. This is, I don't know. I'm between this or Pulp Fiction for my favorite script of his. And I do love that case, but, it's kind of falling apart. It's classic, though. Tony Scott. Casino, Scorsese. The guy's just a fucking genius. I love this. It's a great one. Again, Scorsese, Departed. These were all movies I just had to upgrade, though, because, you see Departed once, and you realize you're going to probably watch that multiple times in your life. Jack Nicholson alone is worth watching multiple times, let alone everybody else. Mark Wahlberg's great. It's not my favorite DiCaprio performance, but he's pretty good in it. This is my favorite DiCaprio movie, period, is Blood Diamond. He's so good as Danny Atcha. Danny Atcha. Was my TV brew, or thanks for breaking my TV brew. It's, yeah. Edward Zwick. Very good director. Titanic. I've watched this particular Titanic DVD about 1,000 times. This is the one that I got when I was a kid, so it's the 2-disc. You have to put the second disc in to get to the second half, aka the sinking. So I pretty much just rewatch the second disc over and over and over because I love the action. The Beach. I'm not going to try and defend this movie, but I do enjoy parts of it. And I'm sure he regrets doing this over some of the other movies he was offered that year, but it is what it is. DiCaprio's been in a lot of memorable stuff in his career. I'm sure he doesn't feel like he's missed out too much. Best Tom Cruise role that he's ever been in. He's so good as a villain. I don't know why he doesn't do it a little more often. Jamie Foxx is whatever in this, but just Tom Cruise as Vincent. So good. So good. Through that movie too. Another Scorsese film that nobody seems to really recognize or talk about, and Daniel Day-Lewis is really good. But I think DiCaprio is good too. The only thing that kind of might drag this down is Cameron Diaz feels extremely out of place. She's the only thing in this movie that feels not right, but everything else really good. Aviator, another Scorsese. There's a couple that seem like people don't really recognize anymore. I never see this talked about ever. This is never talked about in any of the chat forums that I see. When I go to movie stores, I rarely see this. I don't even know if it's on Blu-ray. I don't know how I even got this. I think my parents got this years ago because they were DiCaprio fans. Alright, we're on to the last pile. You see, I have quite a few less DVDs than Blu-rays, which is nice because I didn't want to sit here for an hour again. Rounders with Matt Damon and Worm, aka Edward Norton. Edward Norton in the 90s was probably one of the best actors. Not probably, he was. Pitch Black, so this is the first Riddick movie and the best. Probably should have just been a one movie type of ordeal, but they decided to go franchise route with it. Just like every Vin Diesel franchise or movie, it's like, let's franchise it. One of the worst movies ever made. I'm pretty close to not owning this. Like I'm gonna throw this out eventually. Don't know what my dad was thinking. He thought this was like a good movie in the 90s, and I got 40 minutes into this, and I was ready to just throw myself out a window. It was atrocious. I still gotta watch this. Vanishing Point, Kowalski and his Challenger, that's all I know. The Son is this, oh yeah, The Good Son. So this is the one with Macaulay Culkin and Elijah Wood. Seen it once, long time ago, so I'm gonna have to get back to rewatching this at some point, but it's some pretty fucked up stuff. And it kind of fucked me up because I was a kid and I'd only seen, like Home Alone and Richie Rich, and then you see this, it's like, what? Macaulay's evil. Faster. Yeah. Do I really need to explain how bad this is? He gets shot in the head and survives. Billy Bob Thornton's oddly good in it, though. I don't really know why. The Rundown, The Rock's best movie easily. It's not even really close. It's either this or Walking Tall, but this easily takes the cake. The action at the end's actually good, which never happens in a Rock movie ever. But I'm talking strictly Rock-led movies. I think Pain and Gain's probably a better movie all around than this, but this is as good as it's gonna get. And this came out 21 years ago now. Big Fat Liar. If you grew up in 2004 or 5, it's like you'd understand why I own this. It's a fun kid film for sure when you're a kid and you grew up in that era. It's nostalgic, early 2000s. The Love Guru. Crazy Stupid Love. I expected literally nothing. Nothing at all. I thought this was going to be the dumbest comedy rom-com, and I came out so surprised. I usually hate Steve Carell. He's really heartwarming in this movie. The Dukes of Hazzard TV specials. So you can see I have a few TV specials in here. I love Dukes of Hazzard. This is the reunion and the Hollywood. Dukes Go to Hollywood. I prefer the Dukes reunion. And, to people who have never watched Dukes of Hazzard, I always show them the reunion as a way to try to introduce them. If they're not interested in the reunion, they won't like the show. And, most of the time they do like it because it's heartwarming. Mission to Mars. This is the better version of the Red Planet, and this is the Disney version. Might be Touchstone, but regardless, it's Disney, and it's got some pretty fucking hard scenes to watch. That scene where Woody, Tim Robbins, kills himself. Spoiler. That's some pretty tough stuff to see, especially when you're a kid. Signs, this is M. Night Shyamalan. I don't know why I said that. Signs, M. Night Shyamalan, apparently Arnold. Mel Gibson, Swing Away Meryl. I don't know, this is another movie that it's like Sixth Sense, and honestly, most of his movies, Shyamalan, they're not rewatchable. Only one that I ever catch myself rewatching are Split and Unbreakable. The rest of them, one-time watch. You can throw The Village in there, too. I just don't find them very, like, I'm gonna rewatch Signs. You know what happens. The action stuff is not very great. The story's kind of slow and boring, and I like a slow burn, but this movie just doesn't lead anywhere interesting for me. And I don't know. It's not. It is what it is. I'm not in any rush to upgrade that. Independence Day, one of the best '90s action blockbuster. Again, if you're watching this for the story, you're doing it to yourself. This is straight up. You're watching this for the action and bombastic nature of what you're about to witness. Because it's going to be crazy, explosion, Will Smith saying stupid stuff, welcome to Earth. Friday the 13th, entire collection. This is like in dire need of an upgrade. Look at how bad it's falling apart. So this is 1 to 8, which basically are the only ones that I care to own, because Part 9 is fucking awful, and Jason X, I don't care. So, yeah, this is like a franchise where you have to kind of grow up watching it. If you don't, you will not like them probably, or even give a shit that they exist. And I'm glad I grew up with them, because they're like extremely fun, guilty pleasure, Halloween, dumb fun. And, I just love to kind of push these on people that have never seen them and see their reactions. Like, oh, you've never seen Friday the 13th Part 4? Crispin Glover? There you go. So the last two movies, what a way to end this. Contagion. Yeah, it's such a forgettable, shitty movie. Like, ugh. And Texas Chainsaw, the remake. I like this more than the original. I'm sure I'm going to get absolutely beaten up for that, but I like this more. The original, it's just a girl screaming the entire last hour. Ah! This, at least, I don't know, there feels to be a little more to it than just a girl screaming running through the forest. I mean, that does happen, but I just prefer this. So, don't hate me. But that's it. That's the DVDs. I've dwindled it down. I'm keeping some, and I'm going to get rid of more, but I want to talk about it now. So, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you later.